Hello everyone, Burb here. Let's close out the trainer training event. The finals were yesterday. I'm going to be going over the results of that as well as some feedback and the great things that have happened during this event, because overall this was a very good event. The trainer training event, if you don't know, was just a bunch of content creators. We're getting coached by a bunch of coaches that know a lot about this game. There was a lot of people in this event. I go over it in the overview of the trainer training event. If you haven't seen the results of day one, I'm about to spoil them right now. So if you want to not be spoiled and watch the first video, it's popping up in the top right corner. Feel free to click it. But after day one team pick, the team that I was on, we are in dead last. We were behind by about 50 points, a lot of it due to just a bunch of unfortunate things happening to our team. Specifically in the medium division, I was rushed every single time, with basically my acceleration being, moving past and beyond, requiring not being rushed. So I was just on your left gambling all the time as a late surger, which did not work very well. There's other things like getting blocked and stuff. We didn't do that great in week one. So we wanted to do better in week two. And points are doubled in week two, which is the equalizer, which helps a lot because even though we're down by 50 points or so, there's 360 points that we can grab, 72 points per division. So we were hopeful in week two that we could do better. So now here are our results. I'm going to go through these quite quickly. In the mile division, we got better than 6 points. We got 14 points this time with a couple of 6th place finishes. The remade rice shower was a lot better. There still was that UG1 V-Bourbon that was absolutely dominating the track, and there's not much we can do in that respect, but 14 points is a massive improvement over the 6. So we were able to move it on. Now for sprint, because of the release of Nishino Flower, we decided to Nishino Flower gamble. Malachi Lazloy decided he wanted to do Nishino Flower instead of Taiki Shuttle. And yes, it got a podium. It was actually quite good. So when it did hit, it got the 2nd place. It was a couple of unfortunate things happening in the first 2 races that basically he got kidnapped in the first race. That's just unfortunate, and it happens. All right, so after the miles and sprints, we were still not mathematically eliminated, but we really needed a lot of points in the medium division to keep relevant because we needed to make up some ground. At this point, we were behind by about 75 points, so it was up to me in the medium division to go and hopefully make some podiums. And so we remade our Oguri cap from the late surger position into the hopefully more consistent role in the end closer position. So Oguri Cap, we remade her. We put Daring Strike on her with her Tri-Pulse and just loaded up on mid-race and late-race skills and used end closer coefficient to hopefully get us to the victory. Spurt was good on one map, so that's one spurt. Now, I know you're looking at this and saying, there's something really weird on the screen, and I would agree with you. There is killer tunes, and this is what's called a lobby gamble. So if you saw before, there was like 6 late surgers, and when there's a high late surger lobby, the end closers feast because they're able to get in front of them. Now, will this lobby gamble pay off? We shall see. But the point is that if there's a bunch of late surgers and we are a character with Daring Strike in our kit, we are able to get in front of the late surgers, get into 5th position at some point. Usually with Umamusume, it's pretty quick. The 5th position is good, and when we proc from 5th position, another gold speed skill, we are in the Pace Chaser pack, essentially. So when we're in the Pace Chaser pack, we have a very good chance of actually fighting the front runners, whereas if we just, in the late surger position, if we're just taking Fast and Furious, it's the back half of the pack, so it's not as good as Killer Tunes if we're able to hit it. So this is a high roll strategy. It was based off a lobby gamble. Unfortunately, 2 other people decided to build end closer, specifically gold chips, and gold chips are very good, to be fair. So yeah, Oguri Cap was just having a little bit of trouble against those gold chips because you'll see here, it wasn't as smooth as we would like it, but we still have a ton of skills, and if Killer Tunes does end up proccing, we can win. So race number 1, Tokyo 2300 meter. This is the Umamusume map. This is the map that we can win by going and just Killer Tunesing people. Let's see how she did. So we UMA stand, and then we proceed to unload every mid-race skill into the gold chip in front of us. So sometimes this happens when we do this. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough mid-race, and basically Killer Tunes was a dead skill. Like I said, I was lobby gambling. It was working in room matches, even with a few end closers. It's just unlucky that we basically unloaded our entire mid-race into the back of another end closer. And that's the trouble when you're gambling lobbies and you have other characters in the same role that you are. So, unfortunately, that's going to happen. We proceed to not hit 5th because of it, and we are an end closer, and this is not a spurt map, so 5th and 6th place are really the only ways that we can win the race, and so we end up getting 7th place. But race number 2, the Kyoto 2000 meter, this is the least advantageous for us, but there's still 6th place. This is also one of the shorter spurts, so it's a little tough, but let's see how we do on the Kyoto 2000 meter. All right, you know, some things they never change. All right, well, got blocked again. All right, that's fine. That's fine. We have the third race, and yes, guys, it's a gold chip. I understand. Gold chip, I need you to do your gold chip thing of pushing up in the pack and winning the game. Please just go and get into position to win the game so I can podium. Please. Nagata 2000 meter. Hey, we finally hit everything. We went up, we anchors the way. We didn't kill our tunes, unfortunately, but hey, that was the lobby gamble that didn't pan out. We were able to anchors the way into a decent position, which allowed us to hit our M-Pass into a straightaway spurt. Sorry, M-Pass wasn't part of the this map. Hit our straightaway spurt, hit enough late race to get a podium. Now, we probably would have won with Killer Tunes. It was 3.5 lengths. Yeah, we probably weren't winning at that point. But hey, second place, we hit a singular podium. Fortunately, the front runners were just a little bit too strong. So we ended up with a good showing of at least 30 points. I would have liked these two to be a little better. Some unfortunate things happening, but hey, Gold Ship was able to go and put up a podium. So that was some improvement. At this point, we were still not mathematically eliminated, but we needed very good long and dirt results. And unfortunately, in the long, it was just a bunch of front runner RNG. There were still 7 frontrunners, I believe. There was a Christmas Augury Cap Pace Tracer, and then, of course, the Mayano Top Gun End Closer. And it's just the nature of the long maps, the maps that they chose. You just get bad RNG, and frontrunner RNG cost just a 10 points in long, and at this point, we were mathematically eliminated. But that didn't stop Pick from running a Smart Falcon and podiuming every single time, and only losing basically because of a missed duel, a low roll on a gut stat, as well as not being able to get Mile S on the character. Any one of those 3 things probably would have pushed one of these second places to first places. But hey, we were just having fun. We got 50 points from our coach this time, and we were able to avoid 9th place. So we ended up with 7th place. The winner of the event was Team Bodoke, who ended up running a bunch of front runners in a lot of positions, I believe. But the dirt one ended up winning one of them, and that's what sealed it. But it was between Team Bodoke and Team W Agent for a lot of it, and it was just overall a very fun event. So, like I said, the results aren't necessarily the primary, thing you get out of this event. This was a learning event primarily and a networking event secondarily. So it was nice to meet a lot of new people. So I'm going to do my feedback. And the rule about feedback that, I learned from a couple of people in organizations that I'm in is that, hey, you do 10 positive things that you had over the something before you start doing constructive criticism. And that way you can get your mindset set and make sure that you're not just being negative, because it's so easy to go and point out flaws, and it's not easy to realize that, hey, a lot of it, 90% of this thing was very, very good. And honestly, there's a lot of things that you've gotten it, and this is almost any situation, because it's so easy to think negatively. First thing, the networking aspect. Again, I met a lot of new people, and even though people are scary, it was nice to go out and say, hey, it's you don't have to just do your own thing every single time now. Will anything come of it? Who knows? Like I said, my DMs are always open to anyone in this event if they are interested. But the networking part of it was good. Now, the first week, everyone was really focusing on the competitive aspect of this. I'm glad that in the second week, it's sort of like people finally just chilled out. The general chat was more filled, and it was less team chats and more just everyone was just sitting in the channel. People were streaming and just like we were all just going and chatting. So at week 2, people finally were just talking, and like this was an event that was meant for learning. Once we learned, we were meant to just go and talk to each other and have a good time. The coaches were very helpful. The coaches were very knowledgeable. The ones that I talked to were very nice. They were all very helpful, and they were even like they would help you even if you weren't on your team. So, like I said, it was, even though there was a competition aspect of this, it was a very useful learning event. And I got to try new strategies. I know a lot of people were critical of the Nothing Venture gamble, but there is something, and there's probably a video going to come out in the future about it. The Shashawi Ashinzawa, I am butchering that name still. Whoever keeps talking about Japanese is going to correct me, and I'm going to be sad that I can't get this right, but I'm working on it. We're getting closer every time, hopefully. But it was a very nice glimpse into the high roll meta of basically nerfing your deck in aspects and still trying to hit minimum requirements. And if you're able to do that, you can add things like additional late race high roll gold skills. So it was a good deck building challenge that, it ate up 70 runs, but it's a brand new aspect that I was able to learn about. I learned a lot about certain mechanics, specifically Umamusume and the early race. More on that to come. But with that, the week 2 schedule allowed me to adapt and allowed a lot of people to go and fix the mistakes that they made in week 1. And because of that, we were able to try different strategies, try to go and actually do lobby gambles. Gotta take a drink of water, sorry. And lobby gambles you can't really normally do effectively until you see what other people are actually trying to run. And while they don't always pan out, like the Killer Tunes gamble, the fact I could even think about it in theory craft that, hey, this skill could work if I get lucky enough in the lobby composition, that's an aspect of the game that is rarely explored. Another good thing, early on, when it was brought up to the attention that, hey, Christmas Augury is going to be absolutely busted and destroy the medium division. Yes, it was very swiftly dealt with. There was a poll that was received, and it was promptly banned. And that was, I think, a good decision, but also just the fact that it was even considered and they were able to be flexible before the event happened was a very good addition that probably saved the medium division, honestly. Two, I was able to stream. I know I got tired and I wasn't in the greatest mood after I lost all my races, but hey, I rarely get to stream. I did enjoy talking to everybody, at least in chat, as much as I could. And I hope you did enjoy the streams. The bot is up. At 9, we had unique gamble situations. Like I said, the lobby gambles are not normally something you have to think about in this game, and this format allowed for that. And finally, when we lost, we fell gracefully. The other teams, there wasn't that much, if any. There was bragging rights, like, oh, we won and stuff, but there wasn't like anybody saying and putting down other people that they got 9th and 8th and 7th. It was just a good crew of people. If you lost, we understand this game is completely RNG. We understand that people have different deck strengths and everything, and different things that they're able to do. And I don't think there was any incidents where we had, basically people being, pains in the butts about it. So no one judged each other based on the results. And hey, it was just all a lot of fun. So those were that. I believe it's 4 points of feedback. I could have miscounted. These are constructive criticism, and I'm sure Psyduck is watching this a little bit. I hope they take it the right way. It's I don't mince words, like I said. There's things that are very easily fixable that could make this event a lot smoother and better. And it's not even in production. It's purely about balance. Now, let me make sure. Yeah, I'm not talking about team balance because you can't control that. How do I put this? I'm also, like I said, I'm an engineer. So I try not to just complain about things. I try to offer solutions. However, take those solutions with a grain of salt, because normally I try to just post up a solution and it's not always the best solution, and that's why you start a discussion about it. So take the solutions with a grain of salt. I add them because I try not to just go and complain about what was wrong, right? So the first thing was the biggest one. This one, if there's anything to change, the forced quick building aspect of this was horrible, in my opinion, and you can't allow this to happen again. I'm sorry. When Nishina Flower was released, allowing Nishina Flower, I think, was a mistake. And its reason is, and I'm the person, I've done this in every single one of my CM guides. I hate the whole quick building thing because this is what leads to frustrations, and specifically because it was in the sprint and mile division. These are the newest players with the lowest deck strengths that have to high roll the most, and we're forcing them on 2 days notice, basically, to make a brand new Uma, and we're forcing the coaches, essentially, because of the parent roles, to pull on this character. Because who else is going to pull? Like, someone in the team has to pull on this character, otherwise you're running a very niche strategy or you're running front runner. Like, the meta shifted so dramatically in the sprints and miles and technically one of the medium races that this character had to be pulled and had to be put into Umas. So it was both a stress on the coaches and on the players. And they said, my MO is that, hey, if you can finish your Uma 3 days before the event registration period, right, and it's good enough, just let it ride. When you're quick building Umas, this is giving us the biggest chance of burnout and the biggest chance of frustration. So the solution to this is very simple. I think this is my strongest suggestion out of all of them. Just snapshot the meta at the start of the event. Whatever the Umas are out, whatever the cards are out, just let those ones be the ones to be used throughout the whole event. You could also say, hey, shorten the event down, but then you're shortening the training time down. All you need to do is just say, hey, these are the Umas that are out. These are the cards that are out. Be done with it. This is what we are playing with. This is the pool that we are doing this. And a lot of other games do this. Like I said, I come from a somewhat Smite background. What we used to do in Smite is, hey, it's November, even through the entirety of that little leg of about 6 weeks, we would just snapshot the meta there and we wouldn't have new characters enter. This was like the old Season 3, Season 4 stuff. And it worked out pretty well for that because, you had 3 different seasons and the meta was basically the same the whole time. So teams were able to build based off the meta that they have. Okay, That was my strongest suggestion in my opinion. So if there's one thing to take about it, try to fix that. That forced quick building thing was very stressful for our mile and our sprint runners, and I do know that. The second thing was the guts build was OP due to the SSR limit. The SSR limit rule of 2 SSRs a mile basically mean the guts build had no downsides whatsoever because of the strength of Ayabe guts. Don't necessarily have the best way to fix this, but one thing to consider is maybe we probably should have considered Ayabe guts because of its strength and it being a primary card in the deck. You might have wanted to consider an SSR. You could also make the argument for Aurora, but I don't like essentially banning Aurora because that's a card that everyone technically could have gotten for free. But basically, if you didn't have Ayabe Guts, you were at a massive disadvantage in this particular event. And yes, you could have borrowed it, but then like some of the decks, we didn't have any other options to go if we were to go Guts build at all. The other thing you could just do is you could probably vet the balance of the teams and make sure that the relative strength is a little bit closer. It's going to get easier over time because, eventually everyone should have Ayabe Guts, but new players still will have trouble with that if the Guts build is there. So whatever the meta is, just at least make sure people are able to function in the event with whatever they have. So, or at least get the jump on and saying, hey, we need to figure something else for this. The third thing is the parent situation. The parent rule is a good rule in theory, and it does work out very well because it does make a little bit less, high-end high rolls where the sparks are carrying the event. And I do love that aspect. However, the fact of the matter is that some people do not have the meta parent characters. So my team was struggling because we didn't have Marazenskis on like anybody. Our mile and sprints didn't have, they had to build Marzensky parents from scratch, and especially the mile, because we had to use one of our own parents, we were basically using a 0 speed Spark B plus Marzensky to try to make a deck, and our stats were suffering because of it. I think a simple solution to this is I think there needs to be dummy accounts or approved parents that they found on Uma.guide that everyone can use. It doesn't even have to be that powerful, but if you can at least like make a decent blue Spark parent that has just maybe a couple core skills, but maybe not the most important skills, like maybe it just gives you, sprint corners and sprint straights, and then just a 3-star Marzensky, 3-star Marzensky ult, and a 3-star Spark in the pink and a 2-star blue, just to make it so people can go and have a less frustrating time trying to make a good Uma with Distance S. And yes, as part of Distance S is, the RNG of it, but we have enough time to get it. It's just a matter of how many runs we have to do. So having dummy parents for each of the main inherits, so this event it would have been Nishino Flower, Measure Dober, Marazensky, possibly Measure Orion, but I don't think you need to do it for Measure Orion because everyone has it. But at least like the big three, you may have wanted it for the front runners. You may have wanted it for Saiyan Sky as well. So those big four, just having someone, and I know your coaches are good enough to do this too, just make some decent parents that don't have a ton of whites, but can at least balance the field around a baseline that everyone can use and have those available. The biggest thing too is that this is a League of Heroes format. It just sort of ended up being it, and people figured it out. Fronts naturally have an advantage in podium-based scoring because if they fail, they still get second or third a lot. So the front runner position was very powerful. That's why you saw it so much. And 12 of 15 races were won by frontrunners on day 2 once people figured it out. I don't remember the exact ones. And frankly, the viewer experience for watching frontrunners win every single time is not the greatest in the world. A lot of this came down to various little minor things, but the podium-based scoring was the biggest reason that the frontrunners were so dominant in this one. There's a couple things. One, the map selection. You can modify your map selection to better basically make gamblers have more of a chance. The gambling excels were swapping all over the place, which is really good for seeing a bunch of different characters. But it just so happened that angling and scheming in multiple divisions was working on nearly all the maps, and the biggest one was in Long's Victory Cheer was the only acceleration that was working on all 3 of those long maps. So the two biggest things, did I put it here? Yes. Okay. If there's two strategies in a map pool and there's only two strategies that work on it, particularly in long, just let those two strategies battle it out. So pick three spurt maps, let them battle it out. Also, don't just allow one Excel to be work on all three of the maps. That's the same thing. So long would be you just pick three spurt maps. It's fine. I know it seems end closes are boring, but hey, if we have four end closers and five front runners, we actually just have like a competition between the two roles. Add a real stamina check to the longs as well, and all of a sudden you have a long spurt. Long's other problem was that it had a bunch of 2500s and 2600s. That was the longest map. So people didn't have to make the decision whether they needed to survive all three maps or if they wanted to go and dominate in the shorter race maps. And when you're doing that, you probably go for consistency, but it makes the decision making harder. And also, the longer tracks are just harder for front runners. So maybe not having front runners dominate every single track is a good idea. In the mediums, the biggest thing was we only had one Umamusume map, which means we could not break PDM in two of the three races, and also because there was only one spurt map. We had a spurt map and two Dober maps, and everything was done. It just like the front runners were always going to be in the podium position. So those were the adjustments I would make. I would allow at least another Umamusume map, which would be a 2400, right, or a 2400 map. And then the longs, I think you just pick three spurt maps until the meta fleshes out a bit, and you add a 3200 meter, like maybe a Pisces Cup or something that makes things a little bit more interesting when you can spurt early and have an actual long stretch to make up all that ground. Fronts need to be nerfed. I know all the front runner mains are going to cry at me for it, but hey, like I said, 12 out of 15 races were won by front runners, and like I said, I think the one other way you could do it, you could consider it. I took it from one of the coaches. I'm not going to say which one because they didn't want to be mentioned, I don't think. I never got confirmation they wanted to. I don't know if they minded or not. But randomizing some of the conditions would be nice. Firm and good, you can't go into heavy because of the stamina requirements, but having it be a 50-50 might be an option. Plus, having sunny, cloudy, and rainy might be an option. And then having the random what's it called? It's long, sorry, so I'm having trouble thinking. The random seasons as well, so that the greens are not 100% set every time. Make it closer to the 5v5 format where you have to, gamble on separate different maps, or just, go from there. You could even go as far, and this may be taking it too far, but you could just ban Savvy as a groundwork trigger, so allow Savvy in all roles, but if you're buying groundwork, you can't buy Savvy, so that you're forced to either at least triple wit check with concentration taking the lead, which again I've gone through is like a 77% chance still, or try to get a couple greens that you have to use a little bit more skill points to bring groundwork up to the skill point efficiency of other different skills. So that's my suggestion for that. But the biggest thing that you could do to fix a lot of this is just do best in style points instead of podium scoring. So what I mean by this is to remove the podium bonus points and just go a straight 9-1 scoring. Also, you can increase it from 0-1 because the psychological thing of getting 0 points for your team means that you are very sad. So, give everyone at least give everyone a single point, So 0-1, start at 1, go to 9 instead. So remove the podium bonus points. This also smushes it down from the 12-0 to 1-9. And then after that, give a bonus point to each style for the best position style at the end of each race. I know this means that if someone brings a solo pace chaser or a solo late surger or a solo end closer, they just get 3 bonus points, but you just did something different, and it's going to make it so you have a bunch of variety and you have a bunch of lobby gambles of saying, hey, I know front runners and end closers are meta on longs, but if I make a late surger that's able to steal a victory and I get 3 bonus points that's doubled in round 2, I could go and make a decent amount of points for my team. This also solves a solo frontrunner problem in that, hey, solo frontrunner basically can't win. It's really tough to, but if they're able to still podium and get bonus points for their front position, they go and they equalize the fact that, and then it makes it so that you don't have to gamble on solo frontrunner. By doing this, the first place position person still gets a podium bonus because ninth plus the front runner that wins, let's say, would get 10 points still. It's just that everyone else who builds other different roles, it allows more flexibility and for people to run the characters that they want to run and to think about what roles they actually are built for. So this isn't just me coming from a late surger end closer position. As you saw, there was like 5 late surgers and 3 end closers still. It's just, I think, a better way personally of scoring it rather than just giving the top 3 a bonus a point, because that's going to just go and form the League of Heroes meta. So yeah, overall, it's a good event. If I had any 2 suggestions, the first one would definitely be the Nishino flower thing, and then of course I think the podium scoring could be swapped out with best in show essentially points. Great event. Like I said, I've spent a lot of time on the feedback because the feedback's important. I think a lot of things can be ironed out. Had a lot of fun meeting everybody. Thanks for inviting me to it, Psyduck. I hope this event is done again. This is, and for everyone here, this is a absolute logistical nightmare. So it is a miracle that we got, basically 50 content creators all into a same space. They all showed up to 2 races at the same time throughout completely different time zones. We had Europeans coming in that were like, it was 2 a.m. for them, which is crazy. The fact everyone showed up and was able to at least submit a practice room, a practice code for it is a absolute feat in and of itself. This is probably the biggest Umamusume content creator event that's happened so far. And I hope they do it again. But again, it's probably going to be a couple months because, I do not envy them having to do all this logistical stuff every month because I don't think they're going to. So I hope that, we talk again in 3 months and maybe that happens again. We shall see. Special thanks to Pick, my coach itself, and the team itself for just being a bunch of good lads and lasses. So I hope you all enjoyed the event. I know the results were not what you thought. I know this video is almost 30 minutes. I've just been yapping, but hey, it's nice to debrief and decompress, and I needed this as much as you guys. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the event. The stream is available if you want to get our reactions, although I will say I was in a bad mood after the medium races. But take care, everyone. I believe I'm doing an announcement on Friday for other stuff. So stick around on Friday. You'll have a video. It'll be another channel update video about what's going to happen with stuff in the coming weeks. All right. Take care, everyone. We're about.